Hi, I'm Brian and welcome to Braidwood, a beautiful mountainous spot between Canberra and the south coast. And today I'm at Championship Vinyl, which is part of this wonderful shop that is called Born Vintage. And John's got a great record collection upstairs, so let's go and have a look. Cheers! So I've just got home after spending a couple of wonderful hours at Championship Vinyl in Braidwood, Australia. Now, it's not the easiest place to get to, but if you think about the east coast of Australia down the south and the capital of Australia, inland Canberra, if you go to sort of the meeting point halfway, there you'll find Championship Vinyl. And it's in a building which also houses a brilliant retro vintage antique shop called Born Vintage. And that's run by Julia, who's the most wonderful host and welcoming personality you could ever wish to run into. But upstairs is where Championship Vinyl is, and that is curated and run by a guy called John. And John's a fantastic record store owner, and it's always worth a visit to his shop. As you go up the stairs, there's two main rooms, and as you come up to the top of the stairs, on the right-hand side, there's wonderful t-shirts, magazines, and books. And there's lots of t-shirts from Australian bands from the 1970s into the 80s. Very, very rare stuff indeed. But if you turn left when you come up to the top of the stairs, you run straight into Championship Vinyl. And what a mecca of delight it is. As we go round the room, on the left-hand side, there's a section for jazz, blues, metal, reggae, that sort of stuff. Now, none of these sections are exhaustive by any means, but everything that has been chosen and curated there by John is absolutely top-notch. So there's no schmutter in there at all. As we move further around the room, we come into a great section, which is sort of the 1960s to the present day. But again, these are quality picks of albums. Plenty of psych, plenty of prog. I found a couple of Blues Magoo's albums in there. And, you know, you think Blues Magoo's and there's the Virgin Prunes and plenty of other stuff in there as well. Fantastic. Move further around the room, we come to the rare and wanted section. Now, this really does speak to its name because this stuff is rare. There's a lot of first pressings and a lot of stuff which is very highly wanted. And I should have said, on the walls above these crates, you'll find a lot of grails that are on display as well. Fantastic stuff. Then moving further around the room, you sort of find the reasonably priced section in A to Z, and everything in the shop is A to Z and beautifully set out on display. But there again, there's no clutter here. There's no filler. There's no Neil Diamond. There's no Liberace. There's no Robert Goulet. There's no James Last. There's nothing like that. Everything can grab your attention. And then on the island in the middle of the room is where the singles are housed, and you might have seen those on the video. Brilliant singles collection. Again, all fantastic, all of interest to serious record collectors, all housed in plastic sleeves. And then next to that is 3 or 4 extensive crates of Australian music, primarily from the 70s and 80s. And there's some rare stuff there indeed. And I definitely have to say everything's meticulously looked after in this shop, and everything is housed in the plastic sleeve and looked after absolutely beautifully. So, what did I get on my trip to Championship Vinyl? Well, let's get the bag out. And there it is. Beautiful brown paper packaging with the logo and the design for Championship Vinyl down there at Braidwood. You can find out all the information on there. But I'm sure what we're most interested in is what's inside the bag. Well, I picked up 4 albums. And let's begin by looking at this first one. And I'm going in sort of reverse chronological order. The first thing I do want to point out, though, is on every album, what John has done is given you the band name or the artist name, the title, the year, the pressing, the record condition, the cover condition, and the price. And I reckon that's pretty damn good. Lots of great information, all housed in heavy plastic sleeves, as I mentioned before. And so the first album that I picked up was Ariel Pink's Pom Pom. And this is from 2014, I believe. And it's on the 4AD label. Now, I don't know much about Ariel Pink, although I've discovered a little bit since. But a friend of mine, the King Bee, every time we sort of went crate digging and going to record shops, it always seemed to be on the stereo in his car. And he has said that it is an absolute masterpiece. So that was enough for me to go out and get myself a copy of this album. Now, I've learned that he's supposedly the godfather of chill wave and hypnagogic pop. And I don't know anything about hypnagogic pop. All I know about the hypnagogue, of course, is the Church's recent album. So that's good enough for me. Some of the songs on here are co-written with Kim Fowley, which is interesting. And it's a true double album at 67 minutes. And it looks like it's a plain sort of cover. But as we open it up, look at this. You got all the lyrics there. Great artwork. Now that's a great experience there, right there in a can. True double album at 67 minutes, so there's no cheating. You get exactly what you want. Great art and packaging, as I've said. Now the closest I can compare this album to at this stage is Zappa. There's definitely that playfulness and that cross-stylistic genre-hopping element that Zappa was really well known for. But there's also a sense of Todd Rundgren in the complexity of the production and the melody in the production and the songs, a la sort of a wizard, a true star. I'm also hearing a little bit of Flaming Lips and maybe some early Beck. Shouldn't have thrown that away, but lucky I've got my notes. So some of my favorite songs so far were Not Enough Violence, because they've got a real bit of a Cure vibe on that one. Put Your Number in My Phone, which is just perfect sunshine, West Coast psychedelic pop. Beautiful song. Dinosaur Care Bears is just pure insanity from start to finish. The Funkadelia of Sexual Athletics, which then seems to drop down into a Beach Boys pastiche. And we've got that Prince, Talking Heads feel of Black Ballerina. And the final side, which is side K, P-I-N-K, is probably the most consistent for me on early listens. And I love Exile on Frog Street because it's got that spoken word section and it seems to have that generic sort of frog sound all the way through it. I can't do it, or I'm not even going to try again. And the last song, Dazed in Daydreams, is also really cool. Might be my favorite song on the album, primarily because it reminds me quite a bit of Forever Changes era sort of love. So that was Pom Pom by Ariel Pink. And I'd have to say it's a difficult listen. It's not quite in my wheelhouse and a bit of a challenging listening as well, but I go to the Andy Edwards School of Philosophy on this. And if the thought is that if something's a challenging listen, then maybe you haven't found the right way to listen to it yet. I've also discovered in my research that Ariel Pink and my political and social philosophies are at opposite ends of the spectrum. So I might have to get into a situation where I'm trying to separate the art from the artist here a little, but still. Here's an album that I'm so happy to pick up still in the shrink rack with the old hype sticker on it, and its original US pressing of Blue Sunshine by The Glove. Now, I've often thought about getting this album and getting into it because I've heard it sort of like The Cure meets the Banshees meets psychedelia, and that's not a bad way to describe it. So The Glove was the villain in Yellow Submarine, and Blue Sunshine is the strain of acid that was used in a sort of psychsploitation movie back in the day. So we've got Robert Smith from The Cure, obviously, and Stephen Severin from the Banshees, who are the main protagonists here. But due to a contractual dispute or contractual issues, Robert Smith wasn't allowed really to sing on the album, so they got in Jeanette Landry, who was a dancer from a troupe called Zoo, who often performed on Top of the Pops. And I really like her voice here. I think it's really kind of cool. At times she's channeling Susie Sue, but we also have Andy Anderson on drums, who's about to join The Cure as well. I'm not going to talk a lot about Blue Sunshine by The Glove, and the reason for that is I love this album so much. I'm going to, when I finish doing this video, go on and do a deep dive on this album as well. Favorite songs though, Looking Glass Girl for the swirling sounds, the guitars finally sort of interrupt all the proceedings in Sex, I, Makeup, and Robert Smith's doing these outrageous sort of Robert Fripp guitar solos. A Blues in Drag, or is it A Blues in Drag? I'm not sure, but it's a very, very chilling, jazzy sort of vibe in an instrumental which finishes side one. Orgy, for want of saying the actual word, has that Persian Middle Eastern vibe to it. And the last song, which is another instrumental, is called Relax. And I guarantee you cannot relax during the playing of that song. It's the antithesis of what it suggests. So great album, Blue Sunshine by The Glove. The next album that I picked up, we're going back to 1971, and this is a reissue from 2016. And this is Spectrum Volume 1. Now, Spectrum is an Australian band, Australian sort of progressive rock, psychedelic band. And this is a blissful excursion into the psych out zone. I can't recommend this highly enough. The Sunburned Sailor and I call this genre Ozprog, and it has some stellar examples of that, particularly the songs Super Body, which I first encountered on the Golden Miles compilation through Raven, I think it was, on CD. And if you've never heard Ozprog, that is the absolute place to start. Drifting is a really cool song, as is the longest song on the album, Fiddling Fool. I mean, these guys basically get the head of the song together and then go on the excursions. They get you into the zone and they know how to keep you there. Like you're on the most blissful wave of all time, and the wave just keeps going until you hit the beach. Absolutely fantastic. The Sunburned Sailor and I were doing a few comparisons the other night when we were listening to this, and we thought maybe there's elements of the Canterbury scene in here, but we both thought that it probably outstrips that and be more wonderful than moments of the Canterbury scene. Sort of caravan comparisons in many ways as well. But that's Spectrum, featuring the legendary Mike Rudd on guitar and vocals, and he wrote most of the songs. He went on to be involved in Ariel and Mike Rudd and the Heaters. Then Bill Putt is on bass. We've got Mark Kennedy, what a genius, on drums. And then Lee Neal playing some keys, and his keys in the middle, as with Mark Kennedy's drums in Super Body, are really there just to be admired and enjoyed. And then the final album is one that I've been reading about in this episode or this issue of Shindig, which is the Sunshine Special. And the name of the band is Harpers Bizarre. And I was reading about this in the article Bizarre Tales. And I wonder if there's anybody there you recognize. Maybe not. But that is Ted Templeton, who is, of course, Ted Templeman, who, of course, produced so many Van Halen albums. And he's the lead singer and the guitarist of the band. So I was reading up about this and then came across the album 4 in the shops. And there's Ted not in the shops, in Championship Vinyl. And there is Ted up there. Great looking album cover. This is an Australian reissue, but absolutely fantastic. And it's best known, of course, for not only Ted Templeman, but because it features the song I Love You, Alice Be Toklas from the movie of the same name, where Peter Sellers plays an attorney or an attorney, I think, called Harold Fine, and everything's not fine after he meets up with a hippie woman and his world is turned inside out. There's some cool songs on here. Wichita Toe is a genius little psychedelic soft gem. And then they do all these sort of soul covers like Knock on Wood, Hard to Handle, um, which are interesting and very, very soft sounds for gentle people. And then also Cotton Candy Sandman's a pretty cool song as well. But here's the rub, and this is where I absolutely need your help, because when I was at Championship Vinyl, I texted the Sunburned Sailor a picture of this album, and he replied back immediately, yes, please. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm buying it for him now. But now I've listened to it and, read up on it and all that, I think I might want to keep it. So I'm going to put up a poll. Now, here's another part of the rub as well. Okay, so yeah, I might have indicated that he was going to get it. But on the other hand, I found out, or he told me, he confessed that he used to have it and purged it. So I'm going to put up a poll on my community feed, so which I'd like you to participate in it. Should I keep Harpers Bizarre 4, or should I give it to the Sunburned Sailor, even though he used to have a copy? Who knows? Anyway, so great pickings, great finds at Championship Vinyl. Thanks, John, because I love your shop. It's absolutely immense. It's always worth the visit. And if you're driving through, make sure you pay a visit, stop in, and you'll have a great hour or two and pick up some fantastic vinyl. Now, for most people in the world, you can't get anywhere near the place. The good news is that John has a Discogs page, and it's mushroomjb. Mushroom, J for John, B for Buttercup. And now he doesn't have all of his rare and wanted and sort of amazing psychedelic and prog stuff on there, but he has a lot of great stuff. I bought from him many times, and he is an amazing seller. Everything's always in great condition, communication's superb, and delivery is super fast. There's also on his Discogs page so many good Australian rarities like you wouldn't believe, so I really recommend that to you. So another great day at Championship Vinyl. Thanks, John. Thanks, Julia. And thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to vote in the poll. And if you've liked this video and this tour, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and maybe even consider smashing that subscribe button because you know you want to. Anyway, I'm off to do my deep dive video on Blue Sunshine by The Glove now. But until I see you next time, don't forget, I've had a lot of pleasure at Championship Vinyl, and if music of any size, shape, sound, or style gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? Hope you're all doing well, and bye now.